Hello, starting today with Saturn through houses, and I'm going to just do this generic video. The first one will be all about what is Saturn really all about. So Saturn is one of the most important planets in Vedic astrology, in the sense that it deals at our karma. So wherever Saturn is, it's basically where we're paying our karma to the world in our natal chart. Obviously, do always bear in mind that despite the fact that you're born with a certain placements, but actually every dashas are planetary periods which are very unique to Vedic astrology. Your chart changes, even though the underlying thing is your D1 or your natal chart, but really is on top of it during those years that that particular planet is ruling your life. You're doing more, you can read your chart from there, so this could change according to that. But this, obviously we know that the natal chart is literally the flavor of what we are. But I'm sure we all see that we definitely change every year when we are younger, and every decade or so we change dramatically as well as we work through our karmas. And some karmas, we work through and basically it's done, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be repeating those issues again and again. This is one of the most important things as well to know, is that for Saturn is very strong in the 7th house, because it's planet of community, other people, marriage, commitment. Therefore, if you have a difficult issues, difficult Saturn in your chart, it's really good to work on. I mean, if you have got a strong Venus, then that's fine. And also, if you've got strong Jupiter, that's very good too. But Venus and Saturn, really, they rule all the most important houses in the chart, which is 2nd house and 7th house of Venus, and 10th and 11th house of the natural zodiac are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn for us is the planet, we always look at it from Aries ascendant. It rules 10th house of career, karma and status, and 11th house, which is house of gains, and house of elder sibling. So it's a wealth and work. For Venus is 2nd house of family, savings, values, self-love, and 7th house of relationships and working with the others. So when they get together, this is how relationships are built, basically, because if you've got a good Venus and good Saturn, you really work at it. And so if you're finding that in your chart, your Saturn is very strong and it holds you back, or it's very weak, when it's very weak, like a debilitated Saturn, it's really, particularly in the 1st or 7th house, it can be quite difficult, because the person only ever sees the lack. They can give up on things before even start it. Therefore, it's quite good to work on Saturn. Saturn is literally hard work, putting your back into it and getting results. And the moment you do it with Saturn never ever denies you anything, but it wants you to deliver, and it wants you to be consistent and persistent. So let's go through some of the things to do with Saturn. Saturn is monotony. It's routine. Responsibility is our duty, commitment, fear, worry, seriousness, actually having lack, feeling the lack for anything. Maturity, reliability is humanitarian. It's unhappiness, discipline. It likes fairness, really, in everything. Wherever it sits in our chart, that part of our life, we're always very hard on ourselves. And it's rules it's dry and it's stressful. It rules kind of laws of the land. Sometimes even the unspoken laws will be to do with Saturn. It's like planet of humbleness and integrity, really. It's rules and regulations. It's respected, respect and respecting others, basically. It's always seeing what is not done. So you could have a list, and person who's got a good Venus, they think, okay, I had 10 things on my list. I did 2. Excellent. I now deserve a cup of tea. And they go and treat themselves, and there's no guilt attached. Well, it's very different for Saturn. Saturn is always guilt-driven. So therefore, it's like, even if they did 2 jobs and they were massively busy and there were big jobs to do in a day, they is still hard on themselves that they didn't do the other 8. So their view of life is very much like glass half empty. But they are loyal, hardworking. As I said, they love a routine. They like everything to be just so. Steadfast. They that term, talk the talk, walk the walk. They probably even don't even talk, but they certainly walk the walk, because they're not really having Saturn on your first house. It kind of limits everything. It can, wherever it's sitting, it kind of contracts that. It also rules elderly people, sick or disabled people. It's longevity. It's also death, delays, isolation, community, and above everything else is service. So these are all the indications of Saturn. So what we do now, we'll go through and do it through the houses. Saturn is friendly with Venus, very good friends with Venus, and also with Mercury. And it also does pretty well with Ketu, but it's definitely not friendly with the Sun or the Moon, or even Mars, although Mars is neutral with Saturn. And Rahu as well. Rahu, Saturn are not good together either. So this is how you can see. So you can see that Saturn is going to do really well in own sign, rules Capricorn, and rules Motricona sign, which is like the head office sign. It's very strong. Is in the 11th house of the natural zodiac, which is house of kind of groups, networks, likes to be with other people and actually contributing to everything. And it's exalted in Libra and debilitated in Mars. Exalted in the sign of other people, marriage, committing, working with other people, and diplomacy. But sign of Aries, which is all about me, myself, and I, is not happy there, because obviously it's a sign of me being singular, and also sign of Mars, which is an enemy to it considers Mars as an enemy. And so we just want to kind of like, this is one of those things that when you have a weak Saturn in your chart, you really it's very hard to get a grip of life, and things for people will be seriously delayed, and people, like mothers and fathers, could start worrying about the child because they just feel as though they are not really grasping things in life and solidifying anything. And also it can make the child very worryful as well. So I find that when Saturn is in your first house, in your 7th house, it's your Atmakarka, or is sitting with your ascendant lord, the child, everything for the child will be delayed. They'll be more stressed than normal. They'll be very dutiful. They always worry. They have this fear. So as a mother, it's very important to just like have compassion for them, because these children are real humanitarian. If they are really looked after and nurtured, so they can actually there's that trust thing going on, then you do well and they do well too. And so don't literally, be aware that they are not sometimes, it could be that, I'm not saying this every person, it depends on the chart, but don't they feel the pain of anything, because obviously they feel as though if they didn't do very well in a test, or they didn't do a job to the way their parents wanted to, they carry this terrible guilt, and they feel as though they let you and the family down, so they already suffer with a lot of guilt anyway. So it's really good when we are kind of, even with, if you have a partner who has or children, siblings, friends and everything else, we just got to realize that's where they're coming from. It's really, really important. So anyway, let's talk about the Saturn through signs, through houses. Thank you. Saturn has special aspects. It's obviously where it's sitting. It always, like all other planet aspects, 7 houses away. It also has special aspects, which is 3rd house and 10 houses away. The house that it's actually 3 houses away, but you always count so if it was in the 1st house, so you count 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So 3rd house will be where you'll be putting the effort in. So 3rd house is away from where it's sitting, and then 10 houses away from it, which is where you're paying karma to the world for from Saturn's viewpoint. So it's not necessarily for some people who've got Saturn in the 5th house, is 10 houses from that. It's not going to be necessarily your work one, but nonetheless though, it's something that you're paying karma on the world too. Okay, let's make a start on this. Saturn in the 3rd house. So let's go through 3rd house impact effects. So this is obviously all to do with efforts we put in life, and our willfulness and bravery, our communication styles and skills, how we learn, thinking process, how we can put a message together or message across to other people, our friends, siblings, neighbours, co-workers. It's literally the team that we have around us. How we learn, as I said, deal with information, is it visual, is it by theory, our hobbies and interests, our self-expression, how do we multitask, our intellect, how we calculate things, numbers, how chatty are we. It's also a slightly immature house because it's ruled by Mercury, the natural 3rd house of the zodiac. So it's so that it's and Saturn is there, so it's going to be taking a bit longer to actually self-express in that sense. I'll be a quick thinker, can be sort of see opportunities, can we go for things and make things happen. Are we good at making things with our hands? Are we good at writing? All that kind of things, like journalism, writing books, things like that. What is our image on social media amongst our friends, our siblings and things like that. Think of us, our style of communication, how artistic we are, how analytical, our intellectual, or how informative are we. And it's also short distance travel, so daily travel, like for example catching a bus to go to work, walking to work, traveling on the train somewhere, a short haul flight, all of those are 3rd house. Friendly, fun things that we do, and we get enjoyment out of them. This is obviously an Upachaya house, so it's going to get much better with time, and Saturn delays there, and this is an Upachaya house, so there's dabble things actually holding things back. So let's see how things go. For Aries ascendant, this will be Saturn in Gemini, and as it happens, Mars is not really friendly with either of them, really, with Saturn or with Mercury. So having an 11th house ruler in the 3rd house, it just means that first of all, actually 10th house ruler as well. So 10th house ruler in the 3rd house means that they actually have to do some form of communication at work. Their job will be related to that, and actually how they earn money will be also very significantly ruled by their methods and style of communication and information. So this will obviously will be somebody who could do like be an advisor, be a teacher, somebody who works with computers, technology, somebody who does courses, so like skill sets and things like that, and they could be working with big groups of friends too, as such. And so for them also, it'll just like things will get better with them. They could write, be like a journalistic jobs could be part of that too. And clearly Saturn also rules there, so they're close friends and they're big groups of friends. They're kind of always part of the deal, if you like, so they communicate with all of them as a part of their job or just like interests and things. They could also, obviously, with their work, they could travel. With their work, they need to self-express and be brave at times and push ahead. So the more, this gets better with time and they really start shining at work, that will be nice for them. From there also, the other thing is they could also be in some form of media kind of job as well, media, TV, film. From there also is aspect in the 5th house, so that's even more self-expression because it's third from third. So they could definitely be somebody who eventually becomes quite into cinematography, film, photography, those kinds of teaching students too. Or it could also be a banking, something like that too, banking job, because it's 10th house ruler aspect in the 5th house. So that kind of thing could be the situation. From there also, it's aspect in what would be like the 9th house. So this person is quite learned, quite well travelled, that kind of thing. Eventually, not straight away, eventually with their job. And it's also his 10th house ruler aspect in the 9th house. So it creates a really nice Raj Yoga, wonderful. And also Dhan Yoga too, because 11th house ruler aspect in the 9th house. So in those terms, in terms of aspect to the 5th house and the 9th house, lovely. It's really makes things really concrete. So in that case, it'll be good. So it's nice. They can be quite, education, good for education, learning, being a teacher, professor, that kind of thing. So a nice one creates really good yogas for them. But everything will be delayed typically because of Saturn. Then we have Taurus ascendant. For them, Saturn going into the 3rd house will be Saturn in Cancer. So a little bit difficult, as we said before. Cancer and Saturn will be a little bit difficult. Do you know, it's also, I have heard that Sanjay Raj saying that, Sanjay Raj, he was saying that Saturn in Cancer could be like it is a Raja Yoga in itself, whatever house it is, because it gives person a very long-term reputation in something, even though the feeling behind it is quite difficult. The person probably doesn't show how stressed they get and how they worry about things, but people really respect them because also it is homeland, it is your community. So when Saturn is there, they're highly respected. Anyway, so this Saturn in the 3rd house, so this will be for them like Yoga Karaka planet being in the 3rd house. So they could, again, there could be some difficulties with siblings and communication skills, things like that. But it's all to do with work, travel, learning, education, higher education, dad, all that sort of stuff. So so the dad could be a highly learned, respected person too. Creates lovely yogas really in a sense because it's 10th house ruler aspect in the 9th house. Really nice. And obviously from there is also aspect in the 5th house too. Again, quite an expressive thing. They could work with children in teaching, jobs, advisory thing as well. And because obviously this is the natural 6th house of the zodiac, they could really work with young young students and things to help them progress in life. And then obviously from there is also aspecting the 10 houses from it, which will be like also aspecting the what would be like Aries too from that third house, and Aries is for them like the 12th house. So yeah, so they could learn some foreign languages and things to do with work. They could have like deal with kind of politics as well as kind of things to do with fifth house stuff is very much like education and stock things as well, but there could be some losses there too. But generally speaking, that's the how it is. It's a strong planet for them, and yeah, but it just shows that the father and the mother as well, because Cancer is naturally a sign of the mother and the homeland. So yeah, highly respected in that sense. People, they could also be quite religious too. And for Gemini ascendant, when Saturn is in the third house, will be Saturn in Leo. So for them, Saturn rules 8th and 9th house. When it's in the third house, so you know, it's for them. It's like obviously it's not in a good position, so their dad could be constantly like, they have to be brave to tell their dad how they're making them feel, and they just probably struggle a little bit with gurus and things like that, like because obviously aspect in the 9th house. However, it is going to protect the 9th house of education, higher education, travel, culture, religion, that kind of thing. And these people obviously they hang out with groups because it's a natural 11th house, the zodiac Aquarius. So when it's being aspected, so their groups of friends could be quite religious and have the same belief system as them, and they could all be into humanitarian stuff. And from there, obviously, it's from the third house, Leo, but it's, you know, it doesn't feel good. So that could be quite rigid and could be quite like high-powered person, and you know, they could be like a little bit like that with their child as well. You know, the way they speak, you know, it's almost like bossing the child around all the time. And then we have from there, it's obviously aspecting the third places from itself, which is fifth house from for the Gemini ascendant, which is Libra. So the children could have fantastic social skills. Very, you know, they put a lot of effort into their children. A lot of their education and everything else really important. And then from obviously, you know, from there, you know, also as I said, you know, from this aspect in the 9th house, and it's also aspecting what would be 12th house too. So all of this could be like because of aspecting 5th, 9th, and 12th house. So it could just be like literally their father could travel or be abroad, or their children for their education go away, or they could be actually go away for go abroad and finish like their masters or PhD or something somewhere else, somewhere abroad. Or they could also be a teacher in ethology, or the dad could be very religious, and they bring their children up with those sorts of values. Then we have, but there will be expenses to do with the education. Then we have for Cancer ascendant, third house is Cancer in Virgo. So this is 7th and 8th house ruler in the third house, and so obviously, you know that it's going to be like 7th and 8th house ruler in the third house. Issues communicating with a partner, issues communicating with the in-laws to begin with. But it gets better because it's obviously like a friendly sign to Saturn. And from there, Saturn is aspecting the 9th house, which is the 12th natural sign of the zodiac, Pisces. So you know that the father, could be educated abroad, or could be that their dad wasn't around when they were growing up either. But generally speaking, you know, they obviously, you know, their education could have been abroad in foreign languages, that kind of thing. And then obviously it's also aspecting, from there is also aspecting the 12th house, which is like, so again, so 12th house, 3rd house and 9th house. So there, you know, and so it could just be that literally that they, education, there could be like expenses to do with education. Learning foreign languages could create expenses for them, that kind of thing. And also there could just be those issues with siblings, younger siblings too. And for Virgo ascendant, for Leo ascendant, we have 3rd house. Saturn will be Saturn exalted in Libra. Wonderful. So this is for them 6th and 7th house ruler in the 3rd house, aspect in the 9th house. So this person could have literally work in service, work in litigation, healing, humanitarian stuff, service, medic, that kind of thing. And also for them, the father too is aspecting like the 9th house. So it could be there has been issues with higher education or with the father, because this is where Saturn is also debilitated there. And yeah, so also issues with maybe teachers have been an issue for them too. But nonetheless, though, this for Leo ascendant will be like 6th and 7th house ruler in the 3rd house. You know, just the more they self-express, the more they try and kind of work with other people, work with partner, communicate with partners, better the situation will be. It's obviously from there, it's also aspecting the 12th house, which is Cancer. So again, you know, like it could be that they've had to leave like homeland for their education. Education has cost them money, that kind of thing. It could just be that also when they've gone away to a foreign country, they've managed to actually produce some excellent writing, or, you know, again, you know, educated abroad, that kind of thing. They could speak definitely foreign language too. And then we have from there, obviously from the 3rd house, is also is aspecting the 5th house, which is house of education anyway, and printing. So it's Sagittarius. So lovely in the sense that, you know, they put a lot of effort into their children and into their education, that kind of thing. Quite expressive. The more they express themselves, the better it is for them. And yeah, so obviously from this also aspecting, you know, like 5th house for them, and aspecting the 9th house and the 12th house, as we said. Then we have Virgo ascendant for them. Saturn rules 5th and 6th house. When it's in the 3rd house, is in a difficult situation because it's an enemy sign. It's in Scorpio. So you know that there is like there's some issues with the younger siblings. There's issues definitely, you know, they get a little bit stressed, and if there's any, you know, communications from other friends or siblings or colleagues that doesn't come out right, they you know, they feel quite broken by that. But nonetheless, though, you know, the more they put an effort into it, and also if they're in a romantic situation with somebody, it could be a friend or something, they start sort of behind the scenes, start texting the other person, but they can be quite romantic too. And so basically for Virgo ascendant, Saturn 6th and 5th house ruler in the third house, so they're quite expressive, but they, you know, there could be some squabbles with their friends or siblings or children, students, that kind of thing. They could also be a student and teach them language or communication or technology, maybe even things to do with making things with their hands, because Saturn and Mars together can create They could be quite good at bricklaying, building, DIY, that kind of stuff too. And then from there, obviously, it's also aspecting ninth house. So aspecting 5th house, 9th house, and 12th house, which is also aspecting. So it could be that the father is a miss, because also it's aspecting the 12th house. But definitely education could be far away, distance. They've gone abroad to have it done. They could also have studied theology or culture, classics, languages, foreign languages, that kind of stuff. And then for Libra ascendant, having Saturn in the 3rd house, this is their Yoga Karaka planet, so they have to really work hard at getting that to work, because an Upachaya house gets better with time. So it rules 5th house. This already rules, so they could be very, very expressive, very good at communication with, even though it's kind of starts slow, eventually gets better and better. The more hobbies and things they have, the more they could be quite, the more they go into that playful thing and being romantic, being like childlike, playing games, being kind of connecting with other people, the better it is for them, because it is that Yoga Karaka planner and you want to activate that as much as possible. Obviously, from there is also aspecting the 9th house, so they could be highly good learners, good studious people, have many, many skills too, and they're multi-skilled, multi-talented, because they're both in dual houses, and they love traveling, they love connecting with others, that kind of thing. And they could have some foreign friends. Their dad could even be foreign too. But yeah, this is a nice one because Saturn is a good planet for them, and the more they do that, even with their mum, once the communication starts happening and the Saturn starts getting stronger, Upachaya house gets better, then because it is a malefic in a malefic situation, it does work better. Yeah, so it gets better and better. Then we have for Scorpio ascendant, 3rd house. Saturn would be Saturn in Capricorn, own house. So it rules 4th and 3rd house for Scorpio. When it is in the 3rd house, it's very strong. It's quite conservative, hardworking. That kind of could probably give a lot of wisdom to somebody else. And they could definitely, because it's the 10th house of the natural zodiac, work in advisory and teaching careers, work for the government. And their father could also be working for the government too, and they'd be quite respected generally, and they're well travelled, travelling everywhere too, and an enjoyment out of that travelling and being around other people. For Sagittarius ascendant, having Saturn in the 3rd house, Saturn will be nice and strong because it'll be an own sign, mortal cone sign, which is Aquarius. Mortal cone means head office basically, so very strong there. And so this will be friends that are very humanitarian, big organizations and technology minded friends. And that could be the things that they learn skills in, if you like. And because from there is also aspect in 5th houses away, and 5th houses for that will be Saturn will be debilitated. So when this happens, it could just be like issues with young ones, children, that kind of thing. And so I would definitely advise not to actually be careful with any form of investments and things. But generally speaking, these people will be, their father, and their father will be aspecting the 9th house. So it's obviously these people could, because also aspects the 12th house. So it could be a situation where the father wasn't around when they were growing up, or their education cost them a lot of money, their higher education, learning skills and things like that. And, that kind of thing could very much be the theme of this. But nonetheless, though, it is like they have like Saturn will be in good condition in the 3rd house, 2nd and 3rd house ruler. in the third house. So the family and the siblings and everything else, they're all kind of quite, they like their networks of friends connecting with them, and their friends are probably the people that they've been through the higher education schooling with. Then for Aquarius ascendant, when Saturn is in the third house, Saturn will be in Pisces. So it's a neutral house to them, and generally speaking, it's they kind of this is kind of a dreamy house, if you like. It's natural 12th house of the zodiac. So either they speak really good other languages, foreign languages, or something like that, or it could just be that they're kind of daydreamers, and that obviously because Saturn is there, so at the beginning, you know, it's going to take them a while to actually get going with this placement. And also, as I say, it's 12th house and natural zodiac, so they could be more connected and talking to the source and to talking to the other realms, that kind of thing. They could have like an imaginary friend as a child, but generally speaking, though, this is ninth house is being aspected there as well, so they could have education abroad, learning lots of skills in spirituality and meditation, you know, that kind of thing. And they will be quite creative too, because it's a very creative sign, Pisces. From there is also aspect in fifth house too, which is really nice in the sense that it's house that is ruled by Venus. So it's you know, this they could make really good advisors. You know, they sort of very loving towards, put a lot of effort into their children and their education, that kind of thing. From there, obviously, it's also aspecting the 12th house, and the 12th house will be for them will be like Sagittarius. So definitely the education could have been somewhere far distance away and created some debt for them, expenses and losses because of the education. Also, there could be that they don't really have that good a relationship with their younger siblings either, because through lack of word communication, that kind of thing. And then for Aquarius ascendant, third house, Saturn will be Saturn debilitated in Aries. So it could be that they don't have a younger sibling, or they don't have many close friends or hobbies and things like that. So they have to really make an effort to do that. That's like, it's important to do that. It gets better with time, but generally speaking, not great at communicating and expressing themselves. But obviously, the more they do, the better life will be for them, because that's the whole point of Upachaya house. And it does get better anyway because it's Upachaya, and it does get better because it's Saturn. But, you know, they at the beginning, they're going to feel a little bit like, oh, I don't know what to say, feel a little bit awkward talking, feel a little bit like shy and maybe blush or something like that. But the more, you know, they put themselves out there, the better it is. Something like that, I always think it's really good to join like a singing group, choir, amateur dramatics, something that you are with people who don't know you. They can't really, it doesn't matter how they judge you, and you get to self-express better. And definitely this is very important when Saturn is in the third house. I think everybody needs to self-express, and the more you do that, the better for your throat chakra, and you just attract better friends, better relationships, and do better at work as well. Obviously this means that there could be some issues about higher education and learning, because the learning, it could be just a little bit difficult for them. They could be a little bit more visual learners than like theoretical, that kind of thing. And but things get better with time. And obviously then also it's aspect in the 12th house too, which is Capricorn. So that's also, this could also indicate a little bit of problem because they can't express themselves. They will struggle at work because that Capricorn, or those 12th house, natural 10th house of the zodiac. So in order to get their career going, even though I know it's not their 10th house, they really need to get on their get their skill sets in, get to self-express, do whatever they can to help that situation, get the information, and don't be lazy about it. Just keep trying and trying. And the more you are, the braver you are, the better everything will be. Right, so for Pisces ascendant, so this will be Saturn will be in the 3rd house, which is Taurus. So this is obviously Pisces, obviously Saturn is a difficult planet for them. It's 11th house ruler and 12th house ruler. When it goes into the 3rd house, and it's an unfriendly sign to Jupiter as well, but it's a friendly sign to Saturn. So it just means that through hard work and put in effort, because also 11th house ruler too, that's again Upachaya house, you have to self-express to stop yourself from having losses. And it just, if you, the more you, and they'll have a lovely speech too, because even though it's Saturn sitting there, but it still has got that Venus thing supporting Saturn. So yeah, just keep at it, keep expressing, keep talking to your siblings, and be creative, do more, have interests and hobbies and things, and connect with friends, that kind of thing. And again, this is going to help you with everything. Excuse me. From there, it's also going to aspect 5th house, which is again another creative house. So the more you do, the better it gets. And also don't worry about it, because Saturn's aspect on Cancer can be a little bit difficult. And but don't hold words that people say too harshly. Somebody said this to me. Just don't be sensitive. Let it go and just work on the things for yourself. It doesn't matter about other people, It's that sensitivity that can get us into trouble. But yeah, work on things like on things that can help you in a sense, and expression, being creative, doing all those wonderful things, and learning, education, even getting advisory, counseling, advisory, and all that kind of things will be amazing. And you know exactly how to get the information. Look for it and you'll get it. And that will stop you from getting those losses and things. And obviously from there is aspect in your 9th house, and this is where Saturn, so there could be some secretive things about the father, because the 9th house is Scorpio. Nonetheless, though, it's just literally your friends also, just try and connect in with friends, because it's aspecting your, aspecting from there, it's be aspecting your 12th house, but it's 11th house ruler. So if you don't connect and express yourself, communicate with your friends, you're going to lose them, which is, or elder siblings too, you're going to lose them too. So it's good to just self-express and get the words out. And people, it's always better to tell people, they don't mind. And as we get better and better at communication, the words come out much easier, and we don't lose the friend, and we actually become more brave too. That's it from me. Oh dear. I'll see you soon. Thank you.